This morning on The Real Story, the Delta variant causing some companies to change their plans for a fall return of their employees, the Hartford being one of them. What does this current surge in cases mean for businesses? Plus, it's a whole new ballgame of decisions for companies, from mask mandates to vaccine requirements and remote working. We break down what we're seeing and hearing from some of Connecticut's employers with the Vice President of Government Affairs at the Connecticut Business and Industry Association, Gjede. And COVID also impacting all communities in our state, including our capital city of Hartford. We're going to catch up with Pastor A.J. Johnson about what he's hearing and seeing from his worshipers and the community. Plus, he's a Board of Ed member in the city, how preparations for back to school are going as parents and kids gear up for a new school year. Good morning, and thanks so much for joining us on The Real Story. I'm Jen Bernstein. It's been a tough road for our businesses here in Connecticut, COVID creating an unpredictable and unstable environment for all. And while many of our businesses have been creative and resilient, the Delta variant is not helping get them back on their feet, especially our restaurants and small businesses. COVID also creating a different world when it comes to workplaces making big decisions like mask wearing, vaccine requirements, and trying to figure out remote working as their employees also struggle with balancing work and family obligations in a very difficult time. A lot to break down and mull over with Connecticut Business and Industry Association's Gjede, who is the Vice President of Government Affairs. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for being here. So, we know this has not been an easy time for businesses. Right now, we're dealing still with labor shortages, supply chain shortages. Has it gotten any better since the beginning of the summer?
I think a lot of businesses were very excited as mask mandates started to go away, as people were slowly beginning to return to the office. I think there was a lot of excitement by many businesses. But yeah, unfortunately, as we've seen some of the infection rates rise, businesses are pulling back a little bit, remaining with the hybrid work models, maybe delaying full returns to the office. So we're seeing that more and more, especially from some of Connecticut's largest employers.
Yeah, I was just saying that before. The Hartford delayed its return of employees. They were supposed to return on October 4th. Now it's indefinite. We don't know when those employees are going to return. They're just watching the models basically and waiting to see how these cases go, right?
That's correct. I think these employers are really concerned about ensuring that they are providing the safest possible workplaces, not just for employees, but for customers as well. So they're trying to do the right thing based upon their particular industries and their capabilities. So it's good to see so many of these large businesses and small businesses as well adapting in ways, to ensure safety while also providing additional flexibility for employees, which is something that polls time and again show that employees really want.
Well, businesses are all interconnected, and there's no doubt that when a place like the Hartford or Travelers is not having employees coming back yet, the city has to deal with that as well. Our restaurants don't get the foot traffic that they were hoping for. What is the impact on the city of Hartford right now with these delays?
You're exactly right. And that's those small businesses, those restaurants, those retailers, those are the ones I really feel bad for, because I think they were all preparing for people coming back into Hartford, especially, back into the workforce, looking for, returning to full menus, full offerings that they would normally have for their customers. But with these delays, obviously they're going to have a very difficult, few months in 2021 after a very difficult year last year where they were closed for months at a time. So, the struggles continue for all of these businesses.
What's interesting is the big companies like a Hartford, a Travelers, they are doing this hybrid work model. They're able to kind of shift and figure this out. I was reading an interesting article in the Hartford Current about this, and these companies embracing this flexible work model, and it just sounds like something that's not going away. So what is the future of remote working, from what you're hearing?
Well, I think many businesses are going to start adopting this hybrid model. Again, employees love the flexibility of not having to commute into the workplace. There's no question about that, and polls are showing that that's the case. And of course, we want to continue to focus on safety as we're dealing with this pandemic issues. So a lot of the larger employers are able to provide at least partial telecommuting. But you really miss out on some of the collaboration that occurs when you do have everyone back at the office, which is why I think the hybrid model is really going to take off going forward. Also there are additional legal liability concerns that are slowly being looked at over time. If the home becomes the workplace, does that mean employers could potentially be liable for workers' comp claims if an injury occurs in the employee's home? So there's a lot to balance here, but I do think a hybrid model is likely going forward. But that's not to say that going into the office and office space itself is not going to be part of the future at all, because I think we've even seen over the last few months some very large employers coming into the state of Connecticut and looking at fairly large office buildings. So again, the office is not we're not done with that at all, but I think things are going to look a little differently in the future.
Interesting. I hadn't heard that. Can you say what employers are looking at big office spaces in our state?
Absolutely. And I think the Lamont administration announced several of the employers that they had been speaking to coming, especially into the lower Fairfield County area, whether it's Philip Morris putting its headquarters here, in a variety of other companies, tech companies, fintech companies, coming in and looking to expand in the state. So they are looking for property. It's mostly been down in the Stamford area, but that's not to say that companies aren't looking in other places in Connecticut as well.
Interesting. These companies, a lot of companies that are going to have a return to the office, even if they're doing this flexible work model, are going to have to deal with other safety issues. And they're dealing with those right now, including mask requirements, and then what to do about vaccines. What are you hearing from your members about the discussion around how they navigate that?
Well, I think it's a big part of an employer's responsibility to stress the safety and efficacy of these vaccines. And that's certainly something that we at CBIA are doing, not just to our employees, but for our member companies as well, providing as much information as possible. We need to encourage employees to get vaccinated, get fully vaccinated, so that we can help reduce the number of infection spikes that we're seeing out there. So I think that's going to be a huge role of the business community going forward.
I was reading an article that you were quoted in that was talking about labor shortages. We know our restaurants have been talking about this for months and months now, how they don't have enough staff. They're short. A lot of people are blaming it, some of them who have been on this program, on the unemployment benefits. The federal ones are set to expire on September 6th. So what are you hearing from your members who may be in the restaurant industry or other industries that are impacted? Do they think that they're going to get more workers in just a couple of weeks when that ends?
Yeah, I think they're all hopeful. Certainly I don't believe, and I think most economists, regardless of where they fall on, a political spectrum, I think most agree that the return to where we were pre-pandemic is going to be a slow road. But a number of things have happened that have hopefully are going to help. As of July 1, work search requirements for those on unemployment were reimposed. So I think that's going to help a little bit. On September 1, those extended unemployment benefits that you just referenced do go away. And I do think that we will see certainly an increase in the number of people returning to the workforce after that. But there are other issues as well. Certainly people are still concerned about childcare. And hopefully, if we can get all students back into school on a full-time basis, that will help alleviate some of that issue. And then, of course, childcare issues are continue to be a problem because that industry is looking for workers just like the restaurant industry and others.
So true. We lost hundreds of thousands of jobs when the shutdown happened. We know we have been able to recover some of them. You're saying that you believe it's going to be a slower recovery, but where did these workers go? Did they just leave the workforce? I mean, this was a topic on The Real Story a couple of weeks ago. What are you hearing? Where did they go?
That's a great question. Did some of them leave the state completely and go elsewhere? That remains to be seen. Again, I think others, have legitimate concerns about the virus still, worried about coming back to the workforce for that reason. Obviously, we have an aging workforce in some sectors that may just have chosen simply to retire at that point in time. I'm speaking particularly there about our manufacturing industry. The workers there typically are older than the average workforce in other sectors in the state. In fact, we were really struggling in that sector even before the pandemic, just finding enough skilled workers there. So I think those struggles are going to continue until we find ways to address it.
Is there anything Connecticut can do right now to speed up our recovery?
Well, I think the state has done a number of things already. Obviously, they put in an incentive in place for it's a $1,000 bonus for individuals who were long-term unemployed. The first 10,000 who returned to the workforce for 8 weeks. It's had mixed success. Really, it's about only halfway exhausted at this point in time, which we had certainly hoped it would be completely exhausted by this point. Again, I think things will start looking a little bit better when those extended unemployment benefits finally are gone on September 1st. And hopefully, if we can really encourage full-time back to school for all students in Connecticut, I think that's going to alleviate a lot of the childcare issues for many of our state's workers, and therefore we may see more of them return to the workforce. So I'm certainly hoping for a speedy recovery, and if all of those things happen, maybe we will get there.
Yeah, the school issue is so interesting because even if your kids are back in school, you're still going to be dealing with quarantine issues at points, and that certainly puts a strain on parents if they have to keep their kid home for 10 to 13 days. I think it's 10 days now, or maybe it's 7. I'm not sure. But still, this is ongoing. It's a rolling problem, not going anywhere anytime soon. Eric Gjede with CBIA, thank you so much for coming on and discussing this with us.
Thank you.
Have a good one. All right, still to come on The Real Story, COVID has impacted our communities in many different ways, but one thing is universal. It's taken a toll on our mental health. It's something Pastor A.J. Johnson says he's hearing from community members in the city of Hartford as we all trudge through another COVID surge. We're going to catch up with him and see how people are faring as we approach the fall.